This is the Affordable Housing Committee meeting of April 13th, 2022. We're meeting in the Old Town Hall conference room in the second floor of Old Town Hall and via Zoom. So we have with us Joanne and Heather via Zoom, and we have in the room Steve, Janice, Herb, and Nina, as well as Gretchen, our recording secretary, and Mark Barnhart, staff. So with that, I'll turn things over to you. I apologize. I'm not trying to make any kind of typhoid Mary or making any kind of political statement or all, but my daughter just did test positive for COVID, so she had prom this past weekend, and a lot of kids apparently down with something. So I'm just in the order of being precautious, sensitive to the fact we have a holiday coming up, and I don't want to get anyone sick inadvertently. Sure. That's why I'll wear a mask. Sure.
Thank you.
With that,
yeah,
I'll turn things over to you.
Thanks, Mark, and welcome everybody, and everybody on Zoom. I don't see anybody from the public, and so let's jump right in. Well, let me first mention that we have our public hearing, is it May 11th?
May 11th.
Yeah. And
it's going to be held in the Board of Ed conference room.
Kings Highway East.
Kings Highway East, yes.
And if there's anything that we, the Affordable Housing Committee, needs to do in preparation, you'll let us know.
I will. I would expect, we did post the notice to the town's website and provided a copy of the plan as required by statute to the town clerk's office. I do have queued up an email, an e-blast that would go out to elected officials, commissions and boards, informing them of the fact that we're working on the affordable housing plan if they're not aware of it already, and that we're having a public hearing on the 11th. But in the meantime, provided links to the plan, the proposed plan, the executive summary, and invite them to provide comments. And a notice that went out indicates that anyone that's interested in providing questions or feedback or comments, I give the AHC committee at Fairfield CT work, so all of us, including myself, will receive those comments. I think I've now updated it to include Herb. So hopefully all of you, if you do get something, you'll that's it.
And you sent that out this week, you said?
I have it queued up.
Oh, you have it
go out.
Go out.
It'll
Okay.
go out on tomorrow.
Tomorrow? Okay.
Okay, so next then is to approve the minutes we have three sets, March 9th, March 14th, which was our meeting with TP&Z, and March 30th was the meeting where we basically approved the affordable housing plan for distribution. And so,
Did everyone get copies? If you want, I just brought one. I don't know.
I'll move. Can we move all three together?
yes,
Or
a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion, comments, changes, submissions? I just have one question, Mark. The March 14th TPZ,
Yep.
the minutes were very brief.
Yeah.
Um,
We have a copy of the recording online, and if you want to, I just provide I'm not going to go verbatim, word for word, unless somebody really feels, I said that.
yeah,
we did this the last go around. I just provided a link to the presentation, and in that case, we didn't even have a recording that was available. So here we're, people, if they want to sit and listen to it, they could. The sound quality is pretty bad, which is partly why. Unfortunately, we were in this big room, and we had and some of the soft speakers were pretty far away, and there was some noise in the background, so it wasn't great. I appreciate the fact that Herb was listening online, but you said you got something out of it, so I'll take you at your word.
It was okay. It was okay.
It was,
I got a good bit.
you got the
You
gist.
got the gist of it?
But it was challenging.
It was not my finest moment technologically speaking, that's for sure.
Well, we've been doing a pretty good job. You've been doing a pretty good job on it, so thank you. If there are no additional comments, then all those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Good to go.
Okay,
Thanks.
so you covered the affordable housing plan update for the most part. You know, we have the May 11th, public hearing. I did post a notice, to the website. I don't know if any of you had a chance to take a look at the verbiage there. I have a very similar message to go out to, you know, the RTM, Board of Finance, Board of Selectmen, other elected officials. I have a list from last time of various stakeholder groups that we met with, and I'll send it out to as many of those as I can. And then we'll also, to your question earlier, Steve, we'll be putting together a press release and we'll put together a flyer that we can put in at the senior center. We can do that as part of our notice. I mean, I don't think many people will be planning their calendar for May 11th a month ahead, so we'll probably do that closer. You know, once the calendar turns to May, then we'll make sure the press release goes out and people. And we'll do the same thing. We chose the Board of Ed because it's big enough that we can accommodate a crowd of like 50 people, but we also, you know, so.
Mark, do we have a date yet for the Board of Selectmen meeting?
Well, I have in my head a date, you know, it needs to be seen. I think Glenn thought, May 11th is our regularly scheduled meeting, so I suppose, although I personally would not recommend it, you know, we could, you know, have the public hearing and then we could adopt the plan, which, if there's any substantive comments, I think I would be not too happy. So the Board of Selectmen typically meets the first and third Mondays of each month. You know, we could, that would mean it would be 16th, which doesn't give us a whole lot of time. Could meet Thursday after the public hearing, or the 16th before the Board of Selectmen, although they typically meet at 4 o'clock, so it doesn't, again, you know, those of us who work, I don't know how we would work around that. So I'll talk to the first Selectwoman's office. They know that our expectation is that, you know, once the Affordable Housing Committee conducts the public hearing and then adopts a plan, the expectation is that we'll present it to the Board of Selectmen and they will accept it before we transmit it to.
When is their second meeting in May?
It would typically be the first and third, but, you know, it's also, they're the group that's more likely to have special meetings. So I could certainly talk to them about having a special meeting on the 23rd, for example, or the 30th even. Cutting a little close, but we could.
30th is a holiday weekend, right?
You're right.
Yeah.
So I won't be doing it on the 30th. So it looks like the 23rd.
Yeah.
23rd sounds like a really good date.
Yeah, so I will talk to, I mean, I don't think it's fatal if based on, you know, the committee's action, we transmit it to the state. And I know of communities that are just starting the planning process or have just started the planning process this past month. So I have no idea how they're gonna complete a plan by June. I've talked to a few, that are in the area and they get a late start on it, so.
Have a committee or?
Many places do not have an affordable housing committee. They may not have staff assigned to this purpose. You know, maybe it's planning staff. And I think just some people are just becoming aware of the fact that there is this state law that requires. So there is no teeth in the law that says if you fail to submit it by June 1st, you're gonna lose 15% of your grant money. So there's nothing like that. So I think the worst, you'll get a finger wagging maybe.
All right, so if we meet, public meeting on the 11th, the Affordable Housing Committee should meet after that.
Yeah, and I think not the same night.
Correct. You know, we could do it the 12th or the week of the 16th. We could do a Zoom meeting. I don't expect that, we're gonna get a lot of comment that would, dramatically change the Affordable Housing Plan as written. But hopefully we'll get some good comments.
Yeah.
So do we wanna try and set a date now?
I mean, if Wednesdays work for folks, we could shoot for the following Wednesday, the 18th.
Wednesdays are good for me.
I know you typically are better for those nights.
Monday or Wednesday's good for me.
Fine for me too.
Okay, so we can tentatively plan on the 18th.
Yeah.
7 PM?
Yeah, that would work.
And, you'll talk with Glenn.
Yeah, and even if he's not able to attend, I don't think that's a big deal.
What time is the meeting on May 11th?
7 o'clock.
You'll talk to to Glenn,
Yep.
after the 11th, and so if there's
If we
something
need
to come,
to,
you know,
yeah, change
Yeah.
something, sure.
good. Sounds like a plan. Okay, well, before we get into the old business and updates, I wanted to thank Herb for redoing the list of town-owned properties. And, there's an awful lot of land, you know,
Oh, sure, there is.
the golf course, you could put condos right along the golf.
Pretty much mostly spoken for, but, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, I haven't distributed that to the full committee yet, Steve. I wanted to make sure that you guys thought I should do it before I did, so.
I think it's fine.
Okay.
You might wanna explain a little bit more about how to do it, how to use it, you
Sure,
know?
sure.
And I believe, Herb, that, did you separate some into neighborhoods?
I did, what I did,
Did I
if I
see
can remember this by memory, so I took the spreadsheet,
Yeah.
and I basically used a pivot table approach to create a series of additional spreadsheets. So one, for instance, shows acreage by land use or zoning by neighborhood. Another one shows, acreage by
By acres.
yeah, acres by type of utility configuration.
I don't know if this would help you, but I sent it out.
Okay,
Keeps killing some trees.
Yeah.
so, sure. So, one would be, property use, so, you know, municipal garage or
Okay.
police department or whatever, by zone, so it's acreage. So think of the acreage in a, spreadsheet, the acreages, and this is type of property, yeah, and then this is zone. And then another one is, a similar type of property, so housing authority, library, and so forth, by type of utility. So, public sewer, public water, public sewer, and public water, and so forth. And then the third one, was, I think the third one would have been, I think land use by zone. I don't see that here. I think it's, I think of zoning and, does anybody, do you remember? I've only got two sheets here. Anyway,
Yeah.
you get the idea.
Yeah.
So basically, and then, if you wanna see any of the properties that fall within cohort, you can just click on
Click on it.
and see it all
Okay.
there. So it might be a reasonable way to put it together for us to
Thank you.
systematically approach the
Mhm.
process. Sure.
Are we all gonna get a copy of that?
You are,
Yeah.
indeed.
Okay.
Tonight or tomorrow.
Okay,
So it would be good for us to all look at that, and,
Mhm.
I don't know if the town would entertain the idea, but, there's a lot of town-owned property that is a golf course or a park or something. And, I'm thinking particularly of Hoyden's Hill and the golf course up there, that why couldn't we get, a quarter of an acre to build a house? Especially Hoyden's Hill, we could probably get more than that. It's designated as open space or the girls softball, but, I think that we need to look at, the kind of lot that has the attributes that make it easiest to develop.
Mhm.
And so we need to think about that, make up a list of those items. It could be the zoning, it could be the utilities, it could be the neighborhood. But, this is a good list, and periodically, we need to look at it again. I think the last time we did take a look, Mark, it was really several years ago, probably 5 or more.
Mhm.
So, and a good example of what could be done, we'll talk about it in a few minutes, is 244 Greenfield. Because we bought a little bit of land, and we got a little bit of land from the park, and now we have a site. So, okay. So, we want to give us an update on 830G developments?
Well, the only, sure, some of you already read, that we did not prevail on appeal,
Mhm.
131 Beach Road.
Across the street here.
Yeah, to make it worse, the judge not only approved the project under 830G, should find compelling reasons for, the commission's decision to impose conditions, to not approve the project as presented, but also, approve the zoning, text amendment that was, submitted with it, which is,
How can you do that?
a step above and beyond usual. Again, didn't feel like the commission had, sufficient grounds to deny the, text, amendment change, which is,
Is the town gonna appeal
I
that?
find that hard to
I
believe.
know, I was gonna
Are
say.
they gonna appeal that?
They have already voted to appeal it.
Yeah.
So, now, they have to find grounds to appeal, and the appellate court has to accept that there is some compelling, reason of law, to accept certification.
Well, are they appealing both parts of the?
They're appealing both parts, they're appealing the whole
Yeah,
decision, so, hopefully the appellate court will accept cert.
mhm.
I think, there's a certain amount of, there's always this, when you lose something, people then say, well, I wish I could've, should've, would've done something different.
Mhm.
And I think the commission, certainly certain commission members feel that way, that maybe there was an opportunity to look at things a little differently. But, unless there is, right now, there's no opportunity to kind of revisit this decision unless it's accepted, by the appellate court, we can at least move that process forward. So, they did appeal the decision. I was surprised that not surprised that they, judge, overruled the commission on the application, but I was surprised that the commission approved the text amendment that was also offered, which typically is at the commission's discretion.
Yeah, I don't see how the judge did it, and I think it's a bad precedent.
I do too, and, so the other one, which just came in, which is something we've been trying to work with the property owner on for some time, 15 Umpqua,
Mhm.
and the attorney that represents, Dr. Forrest, who owns the property, is the same attorney that represented Glenn Angelo.
Mhm.
And so part of his application for 15 Umpqua was a text amendment, that says everything we propose here is now, you know, allowed pursuant to our zoning regs, if that were to be approved. And first of all, it's a monstrosity, it's an ugly project, but, we had been talking to the owner of the property and his architect, effort to try to improve the overall appearance and how it would blend in. Not that, you know, a residential or a mixed-use project in that area doesn't make sense, but, you know, it's 63 units, it's well beyond, what we currently allow, it's like 60 tall, so it would dwarf the community theater next door.
66 feet,
6
what I
feet.
read. Yeah.
So it's over 60 feet.
Yeah.
Okay,
Our proposed, TOD overlay zone in, the downtown was to actually reduce, number of stories from 5 to 4, but increase the height from 50 feet to 52 feet to allow for a bigger, first floor street presence for retail. Obviously, this proposal is 100% residential. It is, they're only providing 60 parking spaces for 63 units, which is below, you know, what has been traditionally the one parking space is the threshold that, you know, a lot of 830G applications. And this in terms of density, both in terms of bedroom and this is a less than a half acre parcel. So in terms of bedroom count as well as unit count, this is, it dwarfs any kind of density number that we've seen for 830G projects. So the other thing that is noteworthy is that this project hasn't received a Water Pollution Control Authority approval yet. In fact, previously, the WPCA had indicated that they had significant concerns about the capacity of the existing sewer main that would service this building, whether that could accommodate any kind of development. And so they haven't approved this. So it's unusual in the sense that they're making an application without, you know. So it hasn't formally been accepted and referred to a public hearing, but that's a formality that'll happen probably at the next TPC meeting. And as I said, it's certainly not the most attractive building I've looked at. I can't even say that we've made much headway, even in our rather lengthy conversations with the architect and the owner of the property leading up to this. You know, we were talking about a mixed-use project, but we were trying to provide examples of good design, and we provided some proposed text changes that gave them kind of a menu of options that would accomplish the same thing, which is to reduce the massing and so it doesn't look like one giant box, you know? And it just seemed to be falling on deaf ears. So this is not what we had hoped for, but see how things play out. So
This
that's
is currently a single-family house?
what's there currently is on the Umpqua side, there's a series of retail establishments, Las Vidas Lounge, Catch a Healthy Habit. Just met
So,
with us.
I'm trying to picture, there's the bank across.
Yep.
Yep.
So this is basically
Oh,
from the,
is
this
it
is from
where,
the,
like,
this is from the
the
community-
driving school is?
no,
that
no.
place?
So it's from the community theater to Donnelly Walk.
Okay,
Across to the driving school, that's Fichelle's property.
right,
So across Donnelly Walk, that's Fichelle's property. This is the property on the Post Road side of Donnelly Walk. And so on the Sanford Street side, there is a collection,
Oh.
mishmash of different buildings in there.
63,
And the traffic too.
yeah.
Like,
And then
already
you've
like
got
pretty-
the train station, the commuters leave,
I mean, it's
not ideal.
a good location for some residential. It's just this project is a little bit too massive.
This is all residential.
It's all 100% residential.
Yeah.
Because as you know, the Planning and Zoning Commission can't wrap their heads around how we could approve a mixed-use project under 830G.
Mhm.
So,
But you think that's what they're angling for? that they wanna push the town into a corner where they'll agree to.
Well, look, I mean, as we were talking to them about a mixed-use development of lesser density and scale, you know, we knew that there had Plan B in the background. So it's not like this comes out of thin air, you know,
Mhm.
this is, so that may be part of their tactics,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Probably, and,
Yeah.
because they haven't even gotten, you said they haven't
Yeah.
sewage, so they're waiting, like,
Yeah, I think there is a little bit of a gamesmanship here, tactics, you know. And again, you have a person that was bequeathed the property that's not really a developer, that's not what he does. He had the good fortune to end up owning this piece of real estate in the middle of our downtown, working with an architect that is not the most inspiring choice.
Who's the architect?
John Geddes. You know, and he's done a lot of architecture work, and he's done development himself, and that's part of the process. But
Where's the parking gonna be?
underneath and the building will wrap around it. And, you know, we have a high water table in downtown. That area has been prone to flooding. There is no setback on the side, so next to the community theater, you know, Lee Van has already indicated that he has some concerns about how this will impact his building, whether it'll undermine the structural integrity of his building.
Yeah.
So.
That's
you
a
know,
really
and it's
fair
not-
question.
So it's not gonna be an easy project, even for the most experienced development team. You're working in a fairly tight envelope. And so it's not an easy project to develop, even if it were to be approved. And we're a long way from that, but clearly, you know, this is, something we'll have to.
how many of the residences are they saying?
Well, it'll have to be, you know, they're doing the bare minimum, so it's 30%.
30%?
So of the 63 units, 19 units would be affordable. You know, again, when we were looking at a mixed-use development, we were proposing, you know, can we do something around 15% affordable? You know, at 80% or something like that, maybe 40 units, 36 to 40 units, in that range.
Some of these would be 60%,
Yeah, 10 of them would be 60%, 9 of them would be 80%.
we get more points for the 60%
Right,
ones,
right.
but
We do.
it's,
We do.
that doesn't justify.
I mean, if it were a more attractive project, maybe, you know, you could.
You could be excited about it.
You can get a little bit more excited, but it is, and I know that's not a consideration that the commission can really, hang its hat on, but it really is totally out of character. It would dwarf everything around it.
But there's nothing we can do about that if they wanna go ahead, right?
No, they certainly have the right to make an application, and, the commission will have to hear it. I think the commission does a pretty good job, of looking at whether or not they feel like there's a substantial issue of public health and safety, and if they can document that in the record, there's evidence in the record to support that, they've made a finding by the application. If not, I think they've approved it. They may hold their nose, you know, but I think they've, and the record bears that out. If you look at the 23 projects that have been decided, you know, majority of them have been approved. And maybe not initially, but they've been approved.
The public parking, the additional public parking, they would be leaning on. Where
would that
Yeah,
happen?
where
They do it hard enough to park there now.
I don't know. I guess they're gonna say that, you know, you're prohibited from bringing a car into, you know, you have to Uber it or something. I don't know.
Well,
It's unusual. I mean, every other set-aside development has provided at least one parking space per unit. One parking space.
they're hoping, Mark, they're hoping, and I've heard this from many people, they're hoping that the people that rent these places are commuters, so they don't have cars.
Well, there's not it's not an irrational thing to hope for or expect, but
But that doesn't, okay, I agree, but that doesn't help the people in Fairfield that need this housing.
yeah, I would say, the other thing I will point out is, and I've made this point to my, urban counterparts, you can have, a development next to a train station and theorize that, people are gonna take the train, you're gonna reduce the number of parking spaces, but still, Fairfield is a suburban community. You
Right.
need to be able to have a car to get to places. It's not like you're in the middle of New York
Right.
where you're walking to everything that you need.
Mhm.
Or even Hartford or New
Right,
Haven.
yeah.
So, it just functions differently here. You can probably reduce the amount of parking you need, because not everyone's gonna have, 2 cars
Right.
or, whatever, but, it is not a situation where you can effectively go to zero, like some places say. You don't need to provide any parking, people will figure it out, but that's an urban model that I don't think applies well or transfers well to suburban
No.
towns. So that's my, bad news for, double bad news for.
It is bad.
Well, you had told us on the, March 9th meeting that there has been in the last 10 years about 22 decisions. So we're getting like 2 a year on average. And,
The pace is accelerating. If you look at, there have been 23 decisions since, 23 decisions overall, 22 in the last 10 years. And again, if you look at the last 5 years, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but the majority of those, the 22 have been the last 5 years. So the pace is definitely picking up. So,
with interest rates climbing, it may reduce.
may turn off the tap a little bit.
Maybe,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think right now we have people that are rushing to beat the moratorium.
Yeah.
And once they
I
get a
think that's
decision, they're gonna land bank it, so they're gonna
Mhm.
bank it, they already have a decision, they can, apply for an extension. So you have that phenomenon.
Yeah.
Mark, can I ask you about, High Street, 980 High Street?
Yep,
I saw somebody posted on Facebook, that they saw a surveyor walking High Street, and they said, what happened with this? And somebody else chimed in saying, no, that's not gonna happen.
well, I think they were denied from a wetlands, but
Right,
they were
right,
denied with the ability to then, there was a technical denial, so they could cure the reason for their denial by providing reasonable alternatives that they
Right.
investigated. So I'm sure that part of that is, having a wetland person go out there and flag the wetlands and then, look at different options as to how they can deal with drainage. So I anticipate they're gonna come back with a revised application
Mhm.
and give
But
the
they
commission
haven't
some,
yet.
but I don't think they have it
Oh,
yet,
okay.
no.
And High Street has not been submitted then for a LIHTC application.
I know. Yeah.
Because they can't do it without approvals. Next year.
Not yet.
Any other updates on 830G?
I don't want
No, isn't that
any
enough?
more. I don't want any more.
Yeah.
Do you have a moratorium spreadsheet to pass out?
I don't, because it really hasn't changed any. Now,
Yeah.
I will update, based on the 15 Umpqua. So I'll change that from, an inclusionary to a set-aside, and I'll send that out to everyone.
Mhm.
And I'll calculate what the housing unit equivalency points are.
Mhm.
But it's not a material change, because it really doesn't change the numbers unless things get built, so.
Right.
Yeah. And so the moratorium itself is still 18 months away or something?
Yeah, I think we need one more, the 2 projects are on construction, one downtown, 78 Umpqua. I met with the property manager and developer, and they're, planning for an August 1 CO and occupancy, so they're about to start their marketing for that. And I don't think they'll have any problem marketing those units. And, Black Rock is on a little slower pace, it seems, Camerata. But then beyond that, we would need those two projects to finish up and then one more. And the one that fingers crossed a little bit at this point is, 5545 Park Avenue, next to the Sacred Heart.
Put on the merit.
Right. That was approved, as a conditional approval, and I think they accepted those conditions. They scaled it back a little bit. There was, Sacred Heart had expressed interest in purchasing the property, and I think we've encouraged them from doing that,
Why would you discourage that?
because, number one, then we would lose the property as taxable.
Oh, yeah,
Number two, we would lose the housing unit equivalency points.
yeah,
And number three, we would lose the affordable units as part of that, so.
yeah.
They wanna create dorms, they can do it on their campus. Or
And
they
they
can
just-
rent the units.
They just bought a development in Bridgeport.
Yep, they sure did,
They got a lot of money, I don't know.
sure do,
Tuition's going
Yeah,
up,
they're really growing.
yep.
okay?
So the Housing Trust Fund, we have $167,000 as of, March. We do have a couple projects coming in that'll probably boost that a little bit. So not a big change from last month, about $17,000 to the good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any, I don't have any other burning issues right now, 'cause for Bureau Street, there's another developer that apparently has, outbid the housing authority for that site, so we're waiting to see what that like. They've gotten some money, commitment based on leveraging the Housing Trust Fund from the state, which is, so it's a shame. Got the Commissioner of Housing that was committing $1.5 million to purchase the
Mhm.
property.
Oh, wow.
Well, it's not dead yet. I mean,
Not dead yet, 'cause they could back out.
Yeah,
So that's it for the Housing Trust Fund. Greenfield Street, we did interview the two respondents we got. We got, responses from Connecticut Housing Partners. It's, the successor organization of Mutual Housing of Southwestern Connecticut. I know them very well. I worked with them on Greenfield Commons. The other, proposal was from Habitat for Humanity for coastal Fairfield County. This would be the first, development, they've done in Fairfield. It was unanimous that we selected, Habitat. They haven't been officially notified yet. But I just talked to the purchasing agent. I was, evaluation committee was unanimous in selection. First of all, this is exactly what Habitat does. They build family duplex units like this, so for home ownership with a sweat equity component, which the first selectwoman loved.
Yeah.
And then lastly, they just received a major gift, and they have money to deploy immediately. And so the nice thing about, and both of them actually self-finance this, so if you buy a unit from Habitat, you get a 30-year mortgage at 0 interest from them.
Wow.
So
Wow.
they're in a position to make sure you succeed. So we were really excited about the opportunity to work with them, and, as soon as I get the official award, we'll negotiate, a quick memorandum of understanding that lays out what they will do and what we will do and the timeline associated with that. But essentially, what we're prepared to do is waive, permits, assist them with getting the required permits. I just did a pre-demo, asbestos, and lead survey for the property. I could certainly take the building down, which won't be very expensive. That'll help. And then, they would undertake the design, secure the necessary approvals, and then finance the construction, oversee construction, and then do the sale. And what we would do is structure this as a ground lease, through them to the successor. So all in all, I think we're really excited, to work with them. They've done a lot of work in Bridgeport and a little bit in Stratford, but nothing outside of that, and they were really excited to work with the town. That came through, and, again, they have, most important thing, they have money. They don't have to wait for funding cycles, anything like that, so they're ready to hit the ground running.
So can we apply for the HTCC money?
If they need it. You don't, they have money.
But
They have people that give them money, like, write checks.
the state has this program that
Why,
gives.
why slow it down?
It
Why
won't
create
slow down.
Why create additional hurdles? If they don't need it, let some other project use it.
Right.
But if you
Right.
get extra funds, you can then reduce the price.
You don't, they will make sure it is reduced. They provide home ownership opportunities to people at or below 60% AMI, which is next to impossible around
Wow.
here. Because they're providing mortgage at zero for 30 years, and they structure the loan in such a way that you can't you have to work hard to default on this.
And sweat equity means,
Oh, yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, it's a really cool program. I'll certainly mention anything, to them,
$500,000.
but again, if a project needs it, there may be other more deserving projects that need that more so than us. If we don't need it to do the project, then I'd say let them worry about it.
Mark,
Yeah.
do we know what the design is gonna be?
They're gonna try to mimic the design, that we have over there with other duplexes. So we have a couple down the street.
So
They
my
have other-
favorite type of housing.
What's that?
So my
that?
favorite type of housing. I said,
Duplexes?
so it's like my favorite type of housing,
Are you being serious or?
pocket housing, a type
Oh.
of pocket housing.
Yes, it's gonna be, we're not gonna push we looked at it, and really, if you walk the site, it's really a small heap, but it's a
Right.
small site. So really, to do more than 2 duplexes there is just, I don't want us to be out of character. So I think,
Right.
let's just do
But again,
As
it's
much
not
as-
a brick building.
right.
And it's gonna be not a duplex side by side, duplex up and down.
I'm not sure if it'll be flat or townhouse style, but, I don't remember now. But they were also proposing, 1 4 and 1 3 bedroom,
Mhm.
good size.
Nice.
Again,
Nice.
your point, Joanne, families,
Yeah.
type house,
Yeah.
with
Right
a
there.
yard.
Families, children,
Yep,
We would get a lot of points for.
that would be
4 bedrooms.
wonderful.
3 and 4 bedrooms and 60% AMI, you get more points, yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So, and
That
then,
would be perfect.
because they have such money to deploy,
Perhaps.
I said, well, we have a couple lots down at the Navy housing site that, maybe you wanna take a run at that.
Oh, that's,
Now, these are
Nice.
conforming duplex lots, but again, the issue for us with the Navy housing site was trying to make the numbers work. And, with the conventional, developer and conventional financing. And here, because they're getting, they have this money at their disposal, we can probably just do a duplex there and not try to sandwich in 3 units or a triplex on a duplex lot, so, I don't wanna get ahead of ourselves, but we do have 2 units of the 4 that are currently 100% vacant. And, we have carrying costs, mowing the lawn,
Right.
making sure the utilities get paid, just the water service meter. And at some point, maybe it would be nice to move things ahead.
We could, we have 4 lots down there, 2 are adjoining, the other 2 are not.
Right.
The ones that are not adjoining, if, we could just knock down what's there and build
A
much
duplex,
like,
yeah.
like Operation Hope did.
Right.
you know.
Yep. which are very attractive units.
Yeah.
Those, you know, we could do something very similar to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, as you can tell, I'm pretty excited. I think, you know, I just feel like we've got a good momentum. and-
Makes it a lot easier for you,
Yeah.
It's balanced.
too. I mean, if, give it
Balances
to
the
somebody
meeting
else
out.
and it's their deal.
Yep,
Do you know where they got their money from?
yeah,
Bezos?
it was a,
Mackenzie Scott.
Mackenzie Scott,
Yeah, yeah.
and $5 million went to this
This one,
one, $5 million. So
cool.
they're like, help us spend the money. I was like,
Yeah.
I can help you
I
spend the
will
money.
help you.
Yeah, 'cause they were redoing their strategic plan, as I recall.
Mhm.
You know, they had gotten to a point where things were not, where they wanted themselves to be. And so, $5 million, that's pretty good. That'll
It's
do
very
it.
good, yeah.
Yeah. So, okay.
And that's the updates for business.
Okay, so the two things that I think that the task, the Affordable Housing Committee has not been good at, one is, we don't write articles for the paper, we don't do the kind of educational marketing stuff, that we really should. We talk about it from time to time, but, and especially now that we're doing the, Affordable Plan update.
Mhm.
So do you anticipate an article being in the paper? Should we write an article, you know?
Well, I'll certainly write an article, a press release for the public hearing, but if you wanted to now or whenever, I mean, there's plenty of things we could be writing articles about to help inform the public as to what the Affordable Housing Committee does, what affordable housing is and isn't, you know. Spend some time doing that.
I think right now, at least in my mind, it's, publicizing the public hearing.
Yep.
And so if you're gonna do something.
Yeah, I'll draft, I mean, that's not a hard thing.
Afterwards, then we can think about something in the summer or, early fall. The other thing that we haven't done, I think, a good job is the Housing Trust Fund. We had money there now for a year and a half, 2 years. And we're using some of it, yes, Greenfield Street, Parkview Commons, you know, but there's not a structure of how to disperse the funds. And it seems to me to be very ad hoc. Mark, I don't know if you have any thoughts about how because we've talked about it in the past, and application forms and.
Well, we, you know, that's the easy part, to create an application process and form. It's more difficult to, figure out what your priorities are, where you can have the most impact with your funds. And honestly, I'm not sure. Where I would start would be, as you had suggested, maybe it would be a good idea to bring in, developers, both for-profit and nonprofit, and have them talk, and what would be most helpful. If we were trying to create more affordable housing units, what would be most helpful for us to how should we deploy those monies to creating affordable units here? And not that we have to take that carte blanche, but that might be a good conversation. What's hardest? And, you know, what influenced me and gave me some positive vibes for what we have done, despite the fact that we don't have parameters, is when I've talked to people informally, just very casually, people say, you know, what you could do is make land cost zero. If you could purchase a piece of property and give it to us and essentially say, build units, you've taken land costs, which is a major component, out of the equation. And it's much easier then to create affordable housing. Now, the problem with that is that we're not the most, town, not you, but the town is not the most nimble to go find real estate development opportunities in town. So frequently, we're the last people to know. Other people have already snatched up the good development options out there. But if that's one thought, but there may be others, and then it's a question of, well, what kind of housing should we be focused on? Is our goal, you know, Joanne's talked about family housing, for example, and you get more points for that, especially if it's more, you know, targeted to lower income brackets. Is our goal to try to get as many points for a project as possible? Create units, as many units as we can, you know, how much are we willing to invest? What's the level of subsidy? Like, if we're doing Parkview Commons, for example, we're getting 2 units, and we purchased land for $300,000.
Right.
We're subsidizing for $150,000 a unit. Is that a good thing, or is that, can we do better?
Do we,
No?
Mark, do we get any extra points for veteran housing?
No,
No,
fortunately not.
I wish we
Yes.
could because we definitely need it.
But feel good about it, but, you don't get any more points for it.
Right. Well, I mean,
I-
you know me, I'm all for family housing because that's what we actually need. But what about we focus on, can we focus maybe on the ADUs and perhaps incentives for people to actually build ADUs?
Good thing to talk about, yep.
And actually, to that end, we had started to put together the promotional material.
Yep.
Before the additional change was made by planning and zoning, recently. And we probably ought to go back and redo those promotional materials, get those out and use that opportunity to, you know, maybe have a couple of sessions, maybe one at the senior center, you know, one somewhere else, and really publicize these. Really important, we not just
We've done,
talk to.
we've done a, what do you call it before? A survey before. Could we not put out some type of a survey of what people's opinions are of the ADUs and how we can help get that in place?
I think we could, but I think the first is probably letting people, I mean, there are a lot of people, most people can barely spell ADU. And I think we really need a kind of a grassroots educational program, which is what this was sort of designed to be about. And there are a lot of good materials that are out there, you know, from AARP and whatnot that we can use.
Oh, I know, I send Mark something at least once or twice a week. I think he blocked my email. What?
So
I
it's
can't-
probably good, and then we might want to, you know, maybe there's all this buzz about, you know, coming from Hartford and the buzz about ADUs that came from the recent expansion. It's probably a good kind of jump on this and really work the publicity.
Right.
Speaking of the town opted out,
We did, I think the Board of Selectmen still has to do the same.
for 2 things, right? For the TOD?
Parking and the ADUs,
Okay, yeah.
and I don't know if the board has to, they have this already, so.
Herb, to look at the ADU stuff, is that something that the senior advocates would do?
Well, Bob actually did a lot of the work. Bob Elwinger did
Yeah.
a lot of the work with the prior version, and I know he'd be happy to. He wasn't able to join us tonight, but I know he'd be happy to. And we could work with him. So sure, we could certainly take the lead on that.
ADUs would be a good thing. You know, if we could find a way to get points out of the existing ADUs, it'd be great, but it's a nice housing option to have, but we should find a way
But,
to facilitate.
Steve, how many of them are actually legal?
We have over like 200 legal ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right. So what about going and possibly going after the illegal ones and putting those on the tax rolls?
Well, interestingly, we did, a couple of years ago, we compared the list that the planning department keeps of approved ADUs with the units that are designated as accessory apartments. in the assessor's database.
Mhm.
And it wasn't that much overlap. So we've got there are, I think, about as many units, that are in that database that are designated as land use 1017 accessory apartment. So we could certainly go through those and identify which of those do not conform with the existing approved ADUs.
Right.
We actually have that database, that senior advocates actually have that database. And, that's something we could certainly do at some point.
Good, but it's not really, let the tax assessor or the zoning people figure that out, unless it's actually, I don't know.
Yeah, but if it's beneficial to us,
So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure, yeah. Maybe we
we don't need to add
volunteering
more.
for too much.
We can let somebody else worry about that. I'm just thinking selfishly about myself. I don't need to add more stuff to my.
But that would be the goal, is if we could get some affordable units out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
So you're saying that the assessor has noted these ADUs that are basically not approved?
actually, I got a list, I got a spreadsheet from Emmeline.
Yeah.
And, I compared it to a list that we got a file from the assessor,
Mhm.
after the 2015 valuation, and then we updated it recently.
Mhm.
So an extract from that, and then we have that. So it's something we could actually probably do that comparison
Mhm.
ourselves.
Yeah.
I'd wanna get an updated list from Emmeline and see if we could make that comparison. We could probably do that, not tomorrow or next week, but we could probably do that.
The outreach would be very delicate, that if you're approaching somebody that's got a ADU that's not legal, they don't wanna talk to you, because they're afraid, I'm assuming, that bad things are gonna come out of it, even if you offer them money.
It just is like, we're trying to capture people that may be trying to get away, that haven't, the ADU is not reflected in the valuation of the property. And that's really a question for the assessor, and I don't think it really needs a whole lot of incentive from what I've seen, but maybe if we just turn it over to them and say,
Right.
have at it, here's a couple things. I don't know why they wouldn't be talking to each other anyway, I'm just
Yeah.
thinking that's a little outside of our charge, which is to
Mhm.
really worry about tax scofflaws as opposed to,
Yeah, I think that, I mean, there are a lot of accessory apartments that are not really being used.
as
for that
accessory
purpose.
apartments, right?
So it's an opportunity, actually, for the
Clean up
the
the record.
property owners,
Mhm.
and an opportunity to create potential affordable units as well,
Yeah,
theoretically, anyway.
Theoretically.
theoretically.
Because most people, they create accessory units because they have a family.
It's mainly
Yeah.
that.
Right.
right, but, okay, I get it. I'm just thinking that if they're not legal and they're renting them out at an affordable price, it could benefit us, is what my
Yeah, I
thought
don't
is,
think-
towards
I
our
don't-
numbers.
Examples of that, I would be shocked if there were that.
Mhm.
I think it's more likely you have regular rental apartments they're not doing a certificate of occupancy on. They may actually be renting, those units at a price that's reasonably close to being affordable, that we might be able to entice them to say, hey, we can give you some money, or we give you an abatement if you bring that into our program, if you
Right.
will.
Well, that's my thought. I mean, I said
Yeah.
ADUs, but
Thought.
there's gotta be plenty of units that could actually benefit and go towards our moratorium, but aren't being listed.
I think there's more than we maybe give credit, that there are more affordable rental units in town that are not deed restricted, so they don't go towards our formal inventory than we think there
Right,
Mhm.
right.
So, switching topics, so how can the committee help you?
Well, all good. I mean, I would say, you know, I agree with Herb, and I'm glad you brought that up with the ADUs, because Bob spent a lot of time, and we decided to hold off on doing a workshop and then, you know, updating and disseminating the brochures until the Planning and Zoning Commission got done with revisions. So they're now done. So if we bring that up and, you know, hopefully, you know, the worst of the pandemic is now beyond us and we can have actual in-person workshops, but that would be, you know, the next step. I think that's a good idea, to publicize changes that have been made and to, you know, see what we can do to help, incentivize that.
Mhm.
What's held me up a little bit, and I don't know, we never got a definitive legal opinion as to, you know, there is this provision in the state statutes that sets ADUs aside, that says they count if they're restricted for 10 years. And it seems to me that if you have that called out in that one section, why would it be a different, construct elsewhere in the statutes, for purposes of getting housing moratorium points? I can't get any attorney to focus on it and give me an opinion that we would go to the bank with. If there was a legal opinion that said, we've reviewed the statutory language, the intent, legislative intent, and we think there is at least a good compelling reason or case to be made here, I would then go to the RTM and say, you know, it's not 100% clear, but why don't we give people a tax abatement for, you know, $1,000 or $2,000 a year for 10 years if they do this?
Mhm.
And then put it on, you know, try it. It'll have to get adjudicated in court, I'm sure, but at least, you know, there would be a basis for us doing that. So if you know anyone an attorney who wants to look at this, that would be great.
So it wouldn't be just Fairfield. So, I don't see why we couldn't get a coalition of communities.
How many people have ADUs like we do? I think, you know, yeah, I don't know the whole history of it, but I think we're,
Well,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, I'm sure we have a good number, but, there are active programs, in a number of other towns. When we did that comparison,
Yep.
we did a spreadsheet comparison
Okay.
in terms of what the features are. Maybe we could certainly touch base with those towns.
There's strength in numbers, so
Yeah.
certainly if you get a bunch of towns that have the same opinion on this, willing to take the case, I think that would
I'll pull out that spreadsheet and send it around for
Yeah.
us to take a look at in terms of what other
And
towns.
can you send around the citation of the two parts of the regulations that
Yep.
conflict?
Yep.
Okay.
And even if we only get the 10 years and create an affordable unit, and it doesn't count to the moratorium, at least we're doing some good, right?
Yeah.
We're creating an
Yeah,
affordable unit.
we do that, you know, we do, we assisted a private, landlord, and we provided $25,000 in financing through CDBG to renovate a unit. But, you know, I can't go to him and say, I'm giving you $20,000 or $25,000, I'm gonna want you to restrict it for 40 years. No one would ever do that, so, I said, well, if we're giving you 25, how about 25 years? $1,000 comes off each year. So that's doable, so even for 10 years, at least it's counting towards the 2.8%, it would go up or whatever, you know? So we have units that are restricted for less than 40 years, they don't give us moratorium points, but they give us, you know, some. So I think it's worthwhile, you know. And if we could do that now with CDBG for even accessory dwelling units, by financing, we're doing like 10 years, $10,000 each, we'll make it we can even make it a declining balance loan like we do now.
Mhm.
So, there's incentives we can provide.
And so what about looking to do an ADU conference in September or something, October?
Yeah,
You know, start thinking about, a date where we can all target and that kind of gives us a calendar, we've got to get X done by this date and by that date, and, because I think September would be a good time, October would be good, I
We'll
wouldn't
be
mind
here
doing
before you
summer,
know it.
And that gives us time to, redo materials and, begin to put together publicity, because it's really,
Yeah.
really gonna be important to let people know about this and give them some advanced information to draw them out.
Yeah,
We go to all this trouble, we wanna get people to obviously to show up.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, I think that would be great timing.
and our.
September? Okay,
Yep.
so I will be gone from the 9th until the 17th. I'm going to Vegas for my 70th birthday. I won't be here.
You can zoom in from Vegas.
I don't think so.
On the 11th, TPZ will be there, right?
I'm gonna invite them, yeah.
Yeah. Is there a way we can extra encourage them? Because so much of what we do is gonna be, I think, part of the PCD.
Bring the peeps.
Yeah, okay.
Bring the peeps.
That'll
Okay.
draw them out.
Yeah. Okay. That's all I got.
So back to the Housing Trust Fund for a
Yeah.
second.
Yeah.
So we talked about, dispensing money and also about priorities. In terms of sources of dollars, I mean, I know we touched on that in the plan.
Yep.
But we could certainly start thinking about that as well in terms of how we might tap into sources through grants.
Mhm.
Encourage contributions, I mean, encourage citizens to make, contributions. Show them how they could do it.
Need another brochure as to how you can help.
And there is state money, for affordable housing, especially for areas of high opportunity, which Fairfield is by definition. HTCC money, which is a $500,000 grant, and there's others, is it NNA or NAA?
Yeah, you can use NA money, but you can't take, I don't think any of these grants, you're gonna take the money and then put it into a trust fund. It's gotta be for a
No,
specific project.
no, but we should be
But
leveraging.
you could leverage it, that's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
point,
I like the idea of getting donations or bequests. If we could get some, family up in Greenfield Hill to give us 10 acres or something, Nice.
Mhm.
Can we do a GoFundMe?
I don't know.
I saw
Yeah.
somebody had one last week for their honeymoon, so I think, affordable housing is a little more important.
That could help you in Vegas.
Yeah, there you go.
Maybe I'll do one for that.
Yeah.
Help my slot machines.
So, anybody have anything else? Nothing else? Good. Okay,
Motion to adjourn?
We were adjourned at
11.
11.
Wow.
Thank
Okay.
you, Esther and Joanne, thanks for joining us.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.
Night.
Good night.
Good night.